The information provided in this video is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, or professional business advice. B2B marketing involves inherent variables and risks, and compliance with local and international communication laws, such as the CAN-SPAM Act and the General Data Protection Regulation, is the sole responsibility of the viewer. Any case studies, historical trends, or potential outcomes discussed throughout this series are illustrative and do not guarantee similar results for your specific enterprise. Always conduct your own thorough due diligence and consult with qualified legal and marketing professionals before implementing any new outreach strategies, data collection methods, or business-to-business campaigns. Your business context is unique, and applying these educational concepts should be done with careful consideration of your specific market dynamics and regulatory environment. Cold email is dead. That is the prevailing lie that massive marketing agencies have been forcefully selling you for the past 5 years to justify their exorbitant monthly retainer fees. But while thousands of businesses are abandoning the inbox for oversaturated social media platforms and hyper-expensive pay-per-click advertising, a quiet fraction of elite U.S. companies are leveraging plaintext B2B emails to secure multi-million-dollar contracts on a daily basis. Let us look at a stark reality. According to historical trends and extensive data analysis from major inbox providers, roughly 98% of automated B2B promotional emails are essentially dead on arrival. They are either caught by increasingly aggressive algorithmic spam filters, quarantined indefinitely by enterprise-level corporate firewalls, or instantly deleted by the exact high-level decision-makers you are desperately trying to reach. Yet, against this incredibly bleak backdrop, there is an anomaly that demands your attention. Consider the case study of a mid-sized software-as-a-service company based in Austin, Texas. Last year, they faced a devastating plateau in their sales pipeline. They were burning through thousands of dollars a day on highly targeted professional network ads and getting almost zero enterprise engagement in return. Their sales development team was completely demoralized, their cost of acquisition was skyrocketing, and their financial runway was rapidly shrinking. In a final drastic pivot, they stripped away all the expensive HTML templates, the heavily designed marketing graphics, and the automated spray-and-pray sequencing tools. Instead, they implemented a highly specific, fundamentally counterintuitive email framework that targeted the precise psychological friction points of Fortune 500 executives. Within 90 days, they did not just recover their pipeline. They successfully booked deep discovery calls with the chief operating officers of 3 major national logistics corporations, leading to a massive surge in potential annual recurring revenue. What was the exact sequence they used? What specific psychological trigger did they embed in their subject lines that cleanly bypassed the executive gatekeepers and compelled those high-level operators to respond? I am going to reveal the exact mechanics of that approach later in this masterclass, but first, you must understand the invisible filter that is quietly destroying your current email campaigns right now. If you have been sending hundreds or even thousands of emails a week and hearing nothing but absolute silence, it is not necessarily because your product is inferior, and it is certainly not because decision makers have stopped buying. It is because you are unwittingly triggering a deeply ingrained cognitive defense mechanism that every successful executive has developed to protect their single most valuable asset, their time. Let us dissect the exact anatomy of an executive's corporate inbox. The average vice president or C-level executive at a medium to large enterprise receives upwards of 150 to 200 external emails every single day. The vast majority of these messages follow the exact same predictable, exhausting pattern. They begin with forced personalization, awkwardly attempting to manufacture rapport by referencing a recent company milestone found on a press release or a shared university alma mater. They quickly and predictably pivot into a dense, feature-heavy pitch about how their software, consulting firm, or outsourced service can synergize, optimize, or revolutionize the executive's daily workflow. Finally, they end with a highly presumptuous call to action, demanding 15 minutes of the executive's closely guarded calendar next Tuesday afternoon. This formula is taught in almost every entry-level sales development course across the country, and it is exactly why your emails are failing at scale. When an executive opens an email, they are not thoughtfully reading it, they are ruthlessly triaging it. They are rapidly scanning for specific visual and linguistic cues that indicate whether the message is a time-consuming pitch from a stranger or a critical internal update, demanding their immediate attention. When you use heavy industry jargon, overly polished formatting, or desperate calls to action, you immediately signal that you are a salesperson trying to extract value, rather than an industry peer offering a meaningful, highly contextual solution. This fundamental misalignment in communication style is the root cause of abysmal open rates and non-existent reply rates. The prevailing myth in modern B2B marketing is that success is purely a numbers game. Conventional wisdom dictates that if you simply scrape enough contact data, load enough targets into an automated sequencing platform, and send enough variations of your generic pitch, eventually, the law of averages will take over and someone will convert. This industrial-era approach to human communication is not only profoundly inefficient, but it actively damages your brand reputation. When you inundate a market with poorly targeted, irrelevant messaging, you actively train your prospective clients to ignore you. More dangerously, you condition the global email service providers to route your company's domain directly to the spam folder. The collateral damage of a poorly executed cold email campaign can haunt your domain reputation for years, making it incredibly difficult to reach anyone, even when you finally have a well-crafted message that is actually worth reading. This masterclass is designed to completely deconstruct and carefully rebuild your entire approach to B2B email marketing from the ground up. We are permanently stepping away from the superficial tactics, the supposed shortcut hacks, and the automated spam cannons that dominate the current landscape. Instead, we are going to rely heavily on historical trends, behavioral psychology, and rigorous case studies of communication campaigns that actually resulted in meaningful closed-won revenue. Today, we are focusing strictly on the foundational architecture of a high-converting B2B email strategy. I am going to show you how to fundamentally shift your paradigm from volume-based prospecting to relevance-based engagement. The exact problem we are solving right now is the massive disconnect between the value you provide and how your ideal client wants to receive that information. We will thoroughly dissect the concept of extreme relevance, demonstrating how to identify the hyper-specific, highly localized pain points that keep your target audience awake at night. You will learn exactly why traditional broad-stroke buyer personas are dangerously inadequate for cold outreach, and how to successfully replace them with dynamic, trigger-based targeting parameters. Furthermore, we will outline the precise structural differences between an email that is instantly relegated to the trash bin and an email that actively earns a thoughtful response from a remarkably busy executive. We will deeply explore the mechanics of the anti-pitch, a counterintuitive method of communication that intentionally strips away all traditional sales pressure and positions you firmly as a trusted advisor, rather than just another desperate vendor in their inbox. By the end of this comprehensive deep dive, you will possess a clear, highly actionable understanding of exactly why your previous outreach efforts may have stalled, and precisely what foundational principles you must immediately adopt to command attention in the most fiercely competitive environment on the internet. We will not be dealing in unproven theories or overly optimistic projections. We will examine the exact frameworks that have historically demonstrated consistent, reliable engagement across multiple complex business-to-business sectors. You are going to learn how to craft outbound messaging that inherently respects the recipient's time, perfectly aligns with their immediate strategic corporate objectives, and logically guides them toward a mutually beneficial conversation without ever sounding like a sales pitch. The era of generic, mass blast emailing is permanently over, and the future firmly belongs to those who understand how to combine deep, investigative audience research with concise, highly calibrated communication. That is the exact transformation we are beginning right now as we step into the core mechanics of the modern B2B email. The very first core mechanic we must completely rewire is your fundamental definition of a target audience. For the last decade, marketers have obsessed over static buyer personas. You likely have a document right now describing an ideal customer profile, perhaps naming him Corporate Craig or Enterprise Emily, detailing their age, their generic industry, and their supposed daily pain points. In the rapidly evolving business landscape of 2026, relying on a static buyer persona is a historical relic. It is the equivalent of using a paper map to navigate a constantly shifting maze. The modern executive is not a static set of demographics. They are a dynamic individual responding to real-time internal and external pressures. This brings us to the most critical foundational strategy of modern outbound communication: dynamic signal-based targeting. Dynamic signal-based targeting completely abandons the idea of reaching out to a company simply because they fit your industry and revenue criteria. Instead, it demands that you only initiate contact when a specific, verifiable event has occurred within that organization that directly correlates with the problem your service solves. Imagine if you are Michael Reynolds, the Vice President of Supply Chain Operations at a major manufacturing firm in Ohio. It is a Tuesday morning in late 2026, and you are currently managing the fallout from a massive vendor consolidation project that has disrupted your entire quarter. Your inbox is flooded. You receive an email from a software vendor that says they help manufacturing companies optimize their supply chain. You delete it instantly. Why? Because it is a static pitch. It assumes you need generic optimization, completely ignoring the specific crisis you are actively managing. Now, imagine if Michael receives an entirely different email. This message does not pitch a product at all. Instead, it observes a recent public shift. The email explicitly notes that Michael's company recently absorbed a regional distributor, an event that historically creates massive bottlenecks in localized inventory tracking. The sender then asks a single highly calibrated question about how Michael is handling the integration of legacy tracking systems during this specific transition. This email is not deleted. It commands attention because it demonstrates extreme relevance. It proves that the sender is observing the exact same strategic chessboard that Michael is currently playing on. This is the profound difference between spraying an entire industry with generic value propositions and surgically engaging a specific leader based on a real-time behavioral trigger. Let us look at a comprehensive case study from earlier this year to illustrate the potential outcomes of this exact methodology. A boutique financial compliance consultancy based in Seattle was struggling to acquire new clients in the highly competitive mid-market banking sector. They were executing the standard playbook, sending thousands of emails a week to chief financial officers, highlighting their years of experience and their proprietary auditing frameworks. The historical trends for this type of mass outreach were playing out exactly as expected: abysmal open rates, zero positive replies, and a rapidly deteriorating domain reputation. They were viewed as just another commodity vendor in a sea of identical competitors. The consultancy decided to drastically alter their approach, shifting entirely to dynamic signal-based targeting. They stopped targeting chief financial officers based purely on their job title. Instead, they built a highly specific tracking system to monitor public regulatory filings and job board postings. They were looking for one hyper-specific trigger: regional banks that had suddenly posted multiple urgent job listings for internal compliance auditors. Why this specific trigger? Because historical data indicated that a sudden surge in compliance hiring almost always preceded a major internal audit or a localized regulatory warning. Once they identified a bank exhibiting this specific signal, they did not send their standard pitch deck. They executed a highly precise three-step engagement framework. Step 1 involved identifying the exact executive who would be feeling the immediate pain of this sudden hiring surge, which was usually the director of risk management, not the chief financial officer. Step 2 required deep observation. They researched the specific regulatory hurdles currently affecting that bank's specific operating region. Step 3 was the outreach itself. Their email was entirely stripped of marketing jargon. It simply observed the sudden surge in compliance hiring, validated the difficulty of scaling internal audit teams during a regional regulatory shift, and offered a completely ungated, highly technical resource detailing how similar institutions had recently navigated that exact bottleneck without expanding their full-time headcount. The potential outcomes of this hyper-targeted approach were staggering when compared to their previous mass blast methodology. By transitioning from a volume-based strategy to a relevance-based strategy, their total send volume plummeted by 90%. However, their positive response rate skyrocketed. They were no longer begging for 15 minutes of a distracted executive's time. They were being actively invited into high-level strategic conversations because they had correctly identified a bleeding neck problem at the exact moment the prospect was desperately searching for a tourniquet. They transformed themselves from annoying vendors into timely saviors simply by paying attention to the right behavioral signals. To implement this in your own organization, you must immediately stop asking who your ideal client is and start asking what your ideal client is currently experiencing. What are the public indicators that a company is bleeding money, losing market share, or struggling with a new technological integration? Are they opening new regional offices? Have they recently hired a new chief technology officer? Did they just announce a major round of venture funding? Every single one of these events is a trigger that fundamentally alters the priorities of the executive team. Your job is not to sell your product. Your job is to perfectly align the narrative of your solution with the immediate, urgent reality of their newly triggered environment. When you master this level of situational awareness, you completely bypass the traditional vendor filters that automatically block 99% of cold outreach. You bypass the cognitive fatigue of the decision maker because you are not forcing them to interpret how your generic product applies to their specific situation. You are doing the translational work for them. You are handing them a custom-fitted key to a lock they are actively trying to open. This level of investigative audience research forms the bedrock of any successful B2B campaign in 2026. But identifying the perfect trigger and finding the exact right person is only 50% of the equation. You can have the most profound, timely insight in the world, but if you format your message like a traditional marketing brochure, the executive will instinctively delete it before they even read your brilliant observation. The modern corporate email ecosystem is guarded by an invisible, incredibly aggressive layer of defense. I am not just talking about human skepticism. I am talking about the highly advanced, pattern-matching artificial intelligence that major email providers use to silently quarantine your messages before they ever reach the primary inbox. If you use the wrong sentence structure in your opening line, or if your subject line contains the subtle linguistic markers of a desperate salesperson, you will trigger these silent alarms and your hyper-relevant message will vanish into the void. How exactly do you construct an email that fools both the AI gatekeepers and the highly skeptical human eye? What is the precise psychological anatomy of a subject line that absolutely forces an executive to stop scrolling and click open? That is the exact invisible barrier we are going to dismantle in the next segment. The invisible barrier standing between your highly researched, perfectly timed message and your ideal prospect is a dual-layered defense system that is significantly more sophisticated in 2026 than ever before. The first layer is synthetic and the second layer is psychological. Before human eyes ever perceive your email, it must first survive the silent algorithmic judgment of enterprise-grade security protocols. Major inbox providers like Google Workspace and Microsoft 365 no longer rely on simplistic, outdated keyword filters. They do not just flag obvious words like free, discount, or urgent. They utilize advanced natural language processing models that read the semantic intent of your entire message within milliseconds. These systems analyze your text-to-image ratio. They scan for invisible tracking pixels designed to monitor open rates, and they assess the structural anatomy of your subject line to determine if you are a colleague collaborating on a project or a vendor attempting an unsolicited extraction of attention. If your subject line reads like a billboard, the algorithmic gatekeepers will permanently quarantine your domain reputation. But even if you miraculously bypass the artificial intelligence, you must immediately confront the second, far more ruthless filter, the human triage process. Imagine if you are David Wright, a chief operating officer for a massive commercial real estate firm based in Chicago. It is a Tuesday morning in 2026, and David is sitting in the back of a town car heading to a high-stakes board meeting. He pulls out his smartphone and opens his inbox. He has exactly 4 minutes to process 62 unread emails. He is not reading. He is rapidly scrolling and aggressively deleting. He is looking for internal updates from his legal team, urgent compliance notifications from his regional directors, and updates on ongoing acquisitions. In this hyper-compressed, high-stress environment, your subject line has a single, isolated function. Its sole purpose is not to sell your product. Its purpose is not to introduce your brand. Its exclusive function is to simply buy you the right to be read for 3 more seconds. The fatal mistake almost every B2B marketing campaign makes is attempting to pack their entire value proposition into the subject line. When David sees a subject line formulated as a question about optimizing commercial real estate workflows, his brain instantly categorizes it as external noise. The pattern recognition is instantaneous. It looks exactly like the thousands of other marketing emails he has deleted over the past decade. The psychological defense mechanism triggers, and your meticulously crafted message is sent to the trash before the microscopic tracking pixel can even register and open. To bypass this automatic deletion reflex, we must rely on historical trends regarding human communication patterns and implement a framework we call internal neutrality. An internally neutral subject line intentionally mimics the mundane, low-pressure communication style of an internal colleague or a current project collaborator. Think about how you email your own coworkers. You do not use title case capitalization. You do not use clever puns. You do not use exclamation points. You use 1 to 3 words entirely in lowercase referencing a specific ongoing process. This is the exact psychological camouflage required to survive the mobile inbox triage. Let us examine a rigorous case study involving a mid-market cybersecurity firm based in Atlanta. For 18 months, they aggressively targeted directors of information technology at regional healthcare networks. Their outbound campaigns utilized standard, marketing-approved subject lines highlighting their award-winning ransomware protection. The historical trends of their campaign data, revealed an abysmal open rate hovering around 4%. Their sales pipeline was completely starved. They decided to implement the internal neutrality framework. They stripped away all marketing language and capitalized letters. Because they were using the dynamic signal-based targeting we discussed previously, they were only reaching out to healthcare networks that had recently posted job listings for cloud migration specialists. Their new subject line was exactly 2 words, completely lowercase: cloud migration. That was it. When a director of information technology, deep in the stressful process of migrating patient data to a new server architecture, scanned their crowded inbox, their eyes locked onto those 2 words. It did not look like a pitch. It looked like an urgent update from an internal network engineer or a question from the compliance department. The psychological friction was entirely removed. The potential outcomes of this minor structural shift were extraordinary. Their open rates immediately surged past 60%. By removing the visual markers of a salesperson, they successfully earned the right to have their first sentence read. However, an internally neutral subject line creates a massive responsibility for the very next line of text. This brings us to the mobile preview text, which is arguably the most critical and dangerously misunderstood real estate in modern B2B email marketing. When David Wright looks at his smartphone, he sees the sender name, he sees the 2-word neutral subject line, and he sees the first roughly 40 to 60 characters of the email body. This preview text is the bridge between the subject line and your actual message. If your subject line is perfectly neutral, but your preview text reads as an introduction stating your name and your company, the illusion of relevance is instantly shattered. The executive realizes they have been tricked by a salesperson, resulting in immediate deletion and a high probability of being manually marked as spam, which destroys your long-term deliverability. The preview text must seamlessly validate the neutral subject line by immediately referencing the dynamic signal you uncovered during your investigative audience research. You must never introduce yourself. The executive does not care who you are until they understand why you are occupying their digital space. The first sentence must be an observation anchor. It must objectively state the specific public business reality you have observed, proving without a shadow of a doubt that this email was explicitly written for them and them alone, on this specific day. If the subject line is cloud migration, the preview text must instantly deliver an observation regarding their recent infrastructure shifts, validating why the topic was raised. This completely disarms the executive. They are no longer reading a pitch. They are reading a highly contextual observation from an industry peer who clearly understands their current operational reality. You have successfully bypassed the artificial intelligence firewalls, you have completely neutralized their psychological deletion reflex, and you have compelled them to physically open the email and begin reading your core message. But this is exactly where the vast majority of highly targeted campaigns critically fail. They execute a brilliant subject line, they craft a highly relevant opening observation, and then they immediately ruin the entire interaction by abruptly pivoting into a dense, feature-heavy sales pitch begging for a mandatory calendar invitation. You have earned their attention, but you have not yet earned their trust, and asking for their time at this exact moment is a catastrophic miscalculation. How do you construct the actual body of the email so that it delivers overwhelming, undeniable value without ever sounding like a vendor? What is the precise psychological architecture of an offer that makes a high-level executive actively want to reply to a cold email, thanking you for reaching out? We must explore the mechanics of the asymmetric value offer, and that is exactly what we are going to build in the next phase of this framework. The asymmetric value offer fundamentally flips the traditional dynamic of a business-to-business transaction. For the past 2 decades, cold email outreach has operated on a deeply flawed premise of symmetrical exchange. The standard vendor approaches an executive and essentially says, "I will give you a generic presentation about my software, and in exchange you must give me 30 minutes of your highly valuable time on a Tuesday afternoon." This is a fundamentally broken equation. The executive mathematically loses in this scenario, because their time is inherently more valuable than a speculative sales pitch from an unknown entity. In the hyper-competitive digital economy of 2026, time is the absolute ultimate currency, and executives guard their calendars with ruthless efficiency. To penetrate that defense, you must completely abandon the symmetrical ask and deploy an asymmetric value offer. This means you provide an overwhelming, highly customized piece of value upfront, and you ask for absolutely zero commitment in return. You do not ask for a meeting. You do not ask for a phone call. You do not even ask them to visit your website. Let us examine the historical trends of a commercial insurance brokerage operating out of Dallas, Texas, to understand the massive operational shifts this requires. Historically, their brokers would send thousands of emails to regional construction firms, asking for a brief introductory call to discuss comprehensive liability coverage. The potential outcomes of this traditional approach were predictably dismal, yielding response rates well below 1%. The brokers were perceived as just another commodity vendor trying to interrupt a busy project manager's day. They decided to completely overhaul their outreach strategy by implementing an asymmetric value offer. Instead of asking for a meeting, a broker would identify a specific construction firm that had recently secured a contract in a new municipality, utilizing the dynamic signal-based targeting we discussed previously. The broker would then spend 30 minutes conducting a highly specific micro-audit of the unique municipal zoning and liability regulations in that specific new territory. They would compile a concise one-page brief detailing 3 obscure compliance risks that commonly delay construction timelines in that exact county. The broker's email to the Vice President of Operations would simply state the observation of the new contract, validate the complexity of the new municipality, and offer the one-page risk assessment brief. The email ended there. There was no link to a calendar. There was no request to connect. There was only the offer of highly contextual, highly relevant information specifically designed to help the prospect avoid a localized financial disaster. Imagine if you are Thomas Miller, the Vice President of Operations for that construction firm. You are actively stressing over the regulatory hurdles of this newly awarded project. You receive an email from a stranger that perfectly isolates your exact current anxiety and offers a tangible, immediate solution without demanding your time in return. You are not experiencing sales pressure. You are experiencing relief. The historical trends of campaigns utilizing this exact methodology show a massive exponential increase in positive engagement. By giving away a small piece of the actual solution, you instantly prove your competence. You transcend the status of a salesperson and immediately position yourself as a peer and a trusted advisor. You are demonstrating your expertise through proactive work rather than empty promises. However, executing an asymmetric value offer at scale requires a highly specific operational framework. You cannot spend 10 hours researching every single prospect, or your business will collapse from operational bloat. The secret is to productize your insights. You must build standardized diagnostic templates, specialized financial models, or automated data scraping workflows that allow your team to generate these bespoke assets in less than 15 minutes per prospect. For a software-as-a-service company targeting e-commerce brands, the asset might be a customized site speed analysis comparing their checkout friction directly against their top 3 competitors. For a specialized legal firm, the asset might be a rapid contract vulnerability assessment based on newly passed state legislation. The asset itself must be tangible, it must be consumable in under 3 minutes, and it must independently solve a micro-problem for the prospect. Once you have developed this high-leverage asset, you must master the mechanics of the frictionless delivery. This is where most practitioners make a critical error. They create a brilliant custom asset, and then they hold it hostage behind a mandatory calendar booking, or they attach a massive PDF file that immediately triggers the recipient's corporate spam firewall. The correct method is to utilize a psychological trigger known as the permission ask. The permission ask entirely removes the friction from the transaction by placing the total locus of control squarely in the hands of the executive. Instead of sending the asset unsolicited, you describe the asset you have created exclusively for them, and you ask a single low-pressure question to gauge their interest. You might conclude your email by asking if they are opposed to you sending over a brief screencast detailing your findings, or if it would be entirely ridiculous to share the one-page summary you put together. By giving the executive the explicit autonomy to say no, you dramatically lower their cognitive defense mechanisms. You are not forcing anything upon them. You are simply notifying them that a highly relevant asset exists and awaits their approval. When an executive replies to a permission ask with a simple sure or send it over, a profound psychological shift occurs in the dynamic of the relationship. The moment they grant you permission to send the material, you cease to be an outbound solicitor. You have officially transitioned into an invited expert fulfilling a direct request. You are now operating within their trusted digital space. This single micro-commitment is the foundational building block of a high-ticket B2B relationship. You have successfully bypassed the artificial intelligence spam filters. You have neutralized the human triage reflex, you have anchored your message to a hyper-relevant public signal, and you have delivered undeniable value without ever acting like a desperate vendor. You have effectively reverse-engineered the entire sales process, compelling the prospect to actively ask you for your materials. But delivering a phenomenal piece of free value creates a completely new, highly complex structural problem within your sales pipeline. Once you secure permission, and once you send over that meticulously customized diagnostic, that personalized video breakdown, or that bespoke financial model, what exactly do you do next? If you immediately follow up your free value with a highly aggressive traditional sales pitch, you will instantly destroy all the trust and goodwill you just painstakingly built. The executive will feel manipulated, recognizing the free asset as nothing more than a Trojan horse for a high-pressure closing tactic. Conversely, if you do nothing and simply wait passively for them to reach out, you have essentially just performed free consulting for a stranger who may never contact you again. How do you seamlessly transition the conversation from them passively consuming your free educational asset to them actively requesting a formal, high-level commercial agreement? There is a highly specific psychological bridging technique required to turn that initial free value into closed-won corporate revenue, and that is exactly the mechanism we are going to unpack in the next segment. The moment an executive replies to your permission ask with a yes, the dynamic of the relationship fundamentally shifts, but this is exactly where 90% of modern sales development representatives absolutely panic. They secure the permission, they attach the brilliant diagnostic report or the highly customized financial model, and then they completely sabotage the entire operation by immediately reverting to a high-pressure sales pitch. They write something incredibly jarring like, "Here is the report, as you can see we are experts at this, would you like to book a 30-minute demo to see how our software can fix this for you permanently?" This is a fatal error in communication strategy. By attaching a traditional sales demand directly to the free value, you instantly completely invalidate the value itself. The executive realizes they have been lured into a trap. The free audit was not a genuine attempt to provide industry insight. It was just a thinly veiled Trojan horse. Their psychological defense mechanisms slam back into place, they delete the email, and you are permanently banished from their inbox. To successfully traverse the chasm between delivering free value and securing a commercial agreement, you must deploy a psychological bridging technique, known as the implied gap. The implied gap dictates that your follow-up communication must never explicitly state your value proposition, and it must never demand a meeting. Instead, the asset you deliver must be engineered to flawlessly solve the micro-problem you promised to solve, while simultaneously illuminating a much larger, systemic macro-problem that the executive was completely unaware of. You are not telling them they need your service. You are using objective data to show them a massive operational vulnerability, allowing them to independently arrive at the conclusion that they need your help. Let us look at a highly specific scenario. Imagine you are William Stanford, the Chief Financial Officer for a rapidly expanding corporate catering franchise based in Atlanta, Georgia. It is late October of 2026, and you are aggressively preparing for the holiday scaling season. You previously agreed to let a specialized procurement consultant send over a brief cost analysis of your current produced supply chain. The consultant sends the email. The email does not contain a single sentence about their consulting packages. It simply says, "William, attached is the cost analysis." The most critical finding is on page 2, where we identified a massive localized price discrepancy in your regional dairy sourcing that is currently bleeding roughly $12,000 a month. Let me know if you want the raw data spreadsheet we used to calculate this. This is the masterful execution of the implied gap. The consultant delivered exactly what was promised without a single ounce of sales pressure. But look at what the asset actually accomplished. It solved the micro-problem of analyzing the supply chain, but it violently exposed a terrifying macro-problem. William is suddenly acutely aware that he is losing thousands of dollars due to an oversight he did not even know existed. The consultant did not ask for a meeting. They offered a secondary piece of value, the raw data, which completely maintains their positioning as a helpful industry peer. William is not feeling sold to. He is feeling an urgent sense of operational panic, combined with a deep appreciation for the consultant who just saved him from a massive blind spot. Historical trends across elite outreach campaigns prove that when you create this specific type of cognitive dissonance, the executive will almost always initiate the meeting request themselves. They will reply asking how quickly you can get on a call to explain the findings. You have successfully engineered a scenario where the prospect is actively chasing you. Let us examine a rigorous case study of a mid-sized data security firm operating in San Francisco earlier this year to see the potential outcomes of this methodology at scale. Historically, their outbound team would secure permission to send a dark web vulnerability scan to chief information officers. Their delivery email would include the scan results and immediately push for a comprehensive enterprise software demonstration. Their conversion rate from delivering the scan to actually booking a qualified meeting was sitting at an abysmal 2%. The executives were taking the free data and running. The firm completely restructured their delivery sequence using the implied gap framework. When they delivered the vulnerability scan, they removed all links to their calendar. Their delivery email simply highlighted one highly specific, severely compromised employee credential found in the scan, and ended with a single calibrated question. Are your internal security protocols configured to automatically flag this specific type of lateral credential breach? This single calibrated question changed the entire trajectory of their corporate revenue. It did not ask for a meeting. It asked a highly technical, operational question that directly challenged the competence of the prospect's current systems. If the chief information officer answered no, they were admitting a massive security vulnerability to an expert who clearly knew how to find it. If they ignored it, they were intentionally leaving a known threat active. The potential outcomes were explosive. Their conversion rate from asset delivery to highly qualified, closed-won discovery calls skyrocketed to 28%. By stripping away the sales pitch and focusing entirely on exposing the structural gap in the prospect's operations, they completely bypassed the traditional vendor resistance. But what happens when you execute this strategy flawlessly? You deliver the asset, you highlight the implied gap, and you receive absolute silence. This is the reality of B2B email marketing in 2026. Executives are managing unprecedented levels of digital noise, and even the most profound, highly relevant insight can get buried under a sudden corporate crisis. The traditional response from a standard sales representative is to send a deeply annoying follow-up email 3 days later, saying something completely devoid of value like, just bubbling this to the top of your inbox, or just checking in to see if you had time to read my last email. These check-in emails are actively destructive to your brand reputation. They signal desperation, and they instantly demote you from a trusted advisor back down to a needy vendor demanding attention. To maintain your elevated status, you must completely eradicate the check-in email from your vocabulary and replace it with a strategy called value stacking. If William Stanford does not reply to the initial supply chain analysis, the consultant does not follow up by asking if he read it. Instead, for days later, the consultant sends a completely new, independent micro-insight. The email might simply state, William, regarding the dairy sourcing discrepancy we identified Tuesday, historical data from similar franchises in the Atlanta market suggests this is usually caused by outdated, auto-renewing vendor contracts rather than active market fluctuations. A simple contract audit usually recovers that capital within 30 days. No need to reply, just thought you should have the context. This is value stacking. You are continuously layering undeniable, highly contextual industry expertise into their inbox without ever asking for anything in return. You are building an insurmountable mountain of credibility. When William finally resurfaces from his operational chaos, he does not see a desperate salesperson begging for a meeting. He sees a world-class expert who has been quietly diagnosing his operational failures for a week. This profoundly shifts the power dynamic. When the conversation finally transitions to a formal telephone call or a video conference, you are not entering the room as a subordinate vendor hoping to win a contract. You are entering as the preeminent authority who has already diagnosed the disease and is now simply there to prescribe the cure. However, this exact transition from email to a live verbal conversation introduces a completely new, highly dangerous variable into the sales equation. You have successfully proven your immense value, and you have compelled the executive to get on a call. But because you have provided so much free upfront value, you run the massive risk of entering the dreaded consultant friend zone. This is a scenario where the executive respects your insights so much that they continuously pick your brain for free advice, effectively using you as an unpaid external strategist with absolutely no intention of ever signing a commercial agreement. How do you take control of that first live interaction, instantly establish commercial boundaries, and smoothly pivot from giving away free diagnostics to demanding a premium corporate retainer? What is the exact conversational framework required to monetize the trust you have just built? That is the exact psychological transition we are going to master in the very next phase. The psychological transition from free educator to paid partner begins with a technique called the authority pivot. Most B2B marketers fail here because they enter the first live call with a spirit of gratitude. They thank the executive for their time, they ask how their day is going, and they inadvertently signal that they are a subordinate seeking approval. In 2026, The power dynamic of a high-ticket sale is decided in the first 60 seconds of the interaction. If you have spent the last week sending value-stacked emails and diagnostic reports, the executive is coming to the call expecting a continuation of that expertise. If you revert to a standard sales script, you experience a catastrophic loss of perceived status. To monetize the trust you have built, you must maintain the frame of a diagnostic specialist. Imagine if you are Sarah Jenkins, the Chief Technology Officer of a national retail chain based in Charlotte, North Carolina. You have spent 3 days reviewing a series of unsolicited, but remarkably accurate cybersecurity audit snippets sent by a specialist. You finally agreed to a 15-minute Zoom call. When the call starts, the specialist does not ask you about the weather. They do not show you a slide deck about their company history. Instead, they open the call by referencing the specific data point from their third email. They say, "Sarah, based on the latent vulnerability we identified in your POS terminal encryption last Wednesday, I have mapped out the 3 most likely paths a lateral breach would take through your regional hubs. My goal for this call is to determine if you have the internal bandwidth to patch these gaps yourself, or if you need a specialized strike team to handle the implementation by the end of the quarter." This is the authority pivot in action. It immediately establishes a professional boundary. It frames the conversation not around a purchase, but around a strategic decision: build versus buy. By suggesting that Sarah might have the internal bandwidth to do it herself, the specialist removes all sales pressure while simultaneously challenging Sarah's operational reality. Historically, when an executive is presented with a clear, objective danger and a neutral choice, they do not pull back, they lean in. They begin to explain their internal limitations, their budget constraints, and their current headcount issues. They are no longer interviewing you. They are justifying their need for your help. Let us examine a case study from a specialized HR tech firm in Denver that was targeting Fortune 1000 companies. They had a high-conversion email sequence that focused on identifying high turnover rates in specific engineering departments using public data. They were getting the meetings, but they were consistently getting stuck in the consultant friend zone. Executives would take the data, thank them for the insight, and then hand the project to their internal teams. The potential outcomes of their campaign were stalling at the final hurdle. They implemented a new conversational framework called the Cost of Inaction Bridge. During the call, instead of just providing more free advice on how to fix the turnover, they shifted the focus to the mathematical reality of the status quo. They developed a real-time financial model that they would populate during the live conversation. As the executive spoke, the specialist would input the executive's own numbers into the model: the cost of a vacant seat, the average ramp-up time for a new engineer, and the localized market salary inflation in 2026. Within 10 minutes, the screen showed a definitive, objective number representing exactly how much capital the company was losing every month they delayed a professional intervention. This shifted the psychological state of the prospect from intellectual curiosity to fiscal urgency. The transition to a paid agreement became the only logical path forward. The firm saw a 60% increase in move-to-contract rates because they stopped being the nice people with the interesting data and started being the surgeon showing the patient the exact size of the tumor. You must understand that in B2B email marketing, the email is merely the diagnostic tool. The live call is where you demonstrate the surgical necessity of your intervention. To execute this effectively, you must master the art of the negative reverse. This is a counterintuitive linguistic tool where you actually push the prospect away to see if they pull you back. When a prospect asks, "How much does your service cost?" a traditional salesperson gets excited and immediately sends a proposal. An authority figure responds differently. They might say, "Honestly, I am not sure if we are the right fit for your specific infrastructure yet. Usually, we only work with firms that are losing at least $50,000 a month to this specific inefficiency. Otherwise, our fee structure doesn't make financial sense for you. Are you at that level of loss yet? Or is this still a manageable problem for your team?" This is a high-stakes psychological move. By suggesting you might not work with them, you trigger a deep-seated human fear of being unqualified. If the prospect is actually experiencing the pain you've identified, they will work twice as hard to prove to you that they are a fit. They will start selling you on why they need your help. This is the ultimate reversal of the B2B sales dynamic. You have used cold email to find a bleeding neck, you have used value stacking to prove you have the bandage, and you have used the negative reverse to make them ask you to apply it. But even with this level of psychological mastery, there is a recurring nightmare that plagues even the most elite B2B campaigns: the internal gatekeeper. You have the ear of the CTO or the CFO or the VP of operations. They are convinced. They want to move forward. But then they tell you those dreaded words. I need to run this by my team, or I need to get approval from procurement. Suddenly, your high-level strategic conversation is dragged down into the mud of corporate bureaucracy. You are no longer talking to a visionary leader. You are being analyzed by a committee of people who didn't see your emails, didn't see your diagnostics, and have no emotional or fiscal investment in your solution. This is where the most successful campaigns in the United States either solidify their victory or vanish into a black hole of ghosting. To survive the committee, you cannot rely on your champion to sell for you. You must provide them with a very specific type of internal ammunition that bypasses the skepticism of the board. You need to arm your contact with a business case that is so logically sound and so fiscally undeniable that no procurement officer in 2026 would dare to block it. How do you create an internal sales kit that sells your service when you aren't even in the room? What is the one specific document that turns a skeptical CEO into a passionate advocate for your proposal? We are going to build that exact arsenal as we move into the final stages of the masterclass. The document that changes everything is the internal consensus deck. In the corporate landscape of 2026, the biggest threat to your deal is not a competitor. It is the sheer friction of internal decision-making. You must understand the psychological environment of a modern boardroom. Every executive sitting around that table has their own set of competing priorities, personal biases, and hidden anxieties about making a high-stakes mistake. If your champion, let us call her Jennifer Martinez, the vice president of marketing at a mid-cap manufacturing firm in Ohio, walks into that meeting with a generic sales brochure, she is going to be shredded by the chief financial officer and the head of legal. They do not have the context of your previous 6 emails. They have not seen your value stack diagnostics. To them, you are just another line item expense that needs to be justified or, more likely, eliminated to preserve the quarterly budget. The internal consensus deck is specifically designed to eliminate this friction. It is not a sales deck. It is a business case written in the language of the executives who will never speak to you. Historical trends in high-ticket B2B sales show that deals often die because the salesperson failed to arm their champion with the right narrative. To build this arsenal, you must move beyond features and benefits and focus entirely on fiscal and operational impact. This deck must be short, dense with data, and focused on 3 specific pillars: the objective observation of the problem, the quantified cost of the status quo, and the low-friction path to remediation. Imagine Jennifer Martinez is trying to convince her board to adopt a new AI-driven supply chain forecasting tool you have pitched. Instead of giving her a deck about how smart the AI is, you give her a 5-slide PDF titled Strategic Inventory Optimization Framework. Slide 1 shows the exact signal you used to find them: their recent expansion into 3 new regional warehouses. Slide 2 displays the mathematical gap you identified: the 6% average overstock error that historically plagues companies during this specific phase of growth. Slide 3 is the killer: a table showing the potential outcomes of doing nothing over the next 12 months, detailing an estimated loss of $400,000 in capital efficiency. This is how you turn Jennifer into a hero. When the CFO asks why they should spend money on your service, Jennifer does not talk about your software's user interface. She points to slide 3 and explains that by not addressing the forecasting error now, they are effectively choosing to lose nearly $500,000 by next year. This shifts the burden of proof. The board is no longer deciding whether to buy something. They are deciding whether they can afford to keep losing money. The historical trends of this strategy indicate that when you quantify the pain of the status quo, the decision-making process accelerates by an average of 40%. Let us look at a rigorous case study involving a cybersecurity consultancy based in New York City. They were attempting to close a massive enterprise contract with a national retail group. Their champion was the director of IT, who was fully convinced of the technical necessity of the upgrade. However, every time the proposal reached the procurement committee, it was deferred for further review. The consultancy was being ghosted by the committee because they were speaking 2 different languages. The IT director was talking about encryption protocols and server latency, while the committee only cared about risk mitigation and insurance premiums. The consultancy pivoted. They created a bespoke internal consensus deck for the IT director. They researched the retail group's specific cyber insurance policy requirements for 2026. They found a specific clause stating that premiums would likely increase by 20% if certain security benchmarks were not met by the end of the fiscal year. They put this data on slide 1. They showed the potential outcomes of a breach based on recent historical trends in the retail sector on slide 2. On slide 3, They showed that the cost of their entire consultancy was actually less than the projected increase in insurance premiums. The committee approved the contract in 48 hours. They didn't even ask about the technical specs. They bought the financial safety. To execute this, you must become a master of the invisible sale. You must realize that your most important sales conversations are happening when you are not in the room. This requires a level of humility and strategic foresight that most B2B marketers lack. You have to strip your branding off the materials and make them look like Jennifer's internal research. You are giving her the credit. You are providing the ammunition, and she is pulling the trigger. This creates a powerful psychological bond between you and your champion. You are no longer a vendor. You are their secret weapon. However, even with a perfect internal consensus deck, there is one final, incredibly common point of failure: the price anchor. Many sophisticated B2B campaigns get all the way to the final stage, only to have the deal collapse during the final contract negotiation. The prospect likes the value, they see the need, they have the deck, but then they see the price and they experience immediate sticker shock. This happens because the salesperson failed to properly anchor the value long before the contract was ever sent. If you wait until the final proposal to discuss numbers, you are inviting a negotiation. If you anchor the value correctly from the very first email, the price becomes a non-issue. How do you anchor a six-figure price tag in a way that makes it seem like a bargain? How do you ensure that by the time the contract arrives, the prospect is actually relieved that the price is not higher? Most people think price is a fixed number, but in the world of high-level B2B transactions, price is entirely relative to the size of the hole you are plugging. There is a precise linguistic technique used by the most elite closers in the United States to frame their fees so that they are never compared to a competitor's price, but rather to the massive financial leak they are about to stop. We are moving into the final, most delicate phase of the masterclass. We have covered the hook, the signal, the neutral subject line, the asymmetric value offer, and the internal consensus. Now we must master the art of the value-based close. This is where we ensure that your email marketing efforts actually translate into deposited funds and long-term recurring revenue. If you have done everything right up to this point, you are standing on the 1-yard line. The last thing you want to do is fumble the ball because of a poorly framed pricing conversation. We are about to break down the exact math and the specific words you need to use to justify premium pricing in an era of budget cuts and economic uncertainty. The next segment is where the strategy turns into a signed contract. To justify premium pricing in an environment defined by fiscal conservatism, you must master the value-based close. This is not about defending your price. It is about establishing the mathematical irrelevance of your fee in comparison to the problem you are solving. In the United States business sector of 2026, every dollar spent is scrutinized under a microscopic lens. If your proposal is viewed as an expense, it is subject to negotiation, discounting, and potential rejection. If it is viewed as a capital reallocation toward a higher yield outcome, it becomes a strategic necessity. To achieve this, you must implement the principle of the price anchor early and often, long before a formal contract is ever drafted. The price anchor works by tethering your fee to the massive financial leak you identified in your initial diagnostic emails. Imagine you are dealing with Robert Sterling, the chief financial officer of a regional healthcare network in Pennsylvania. Through your previous value stacking outreach, you have already demonstrated that his current patient billing system has a leakage rate of 4% due to outdated coding protocols. In a network doing $500 million in annual revenue, that is a $20 million annual leak. If you wait until the end of the process to tell Robert that your solution costs $200,000, he might reflexively recoil at the six-figure price tag. However, if every conversation and every email has been anchored to the $20 million problem, that $200,000 is no longer an expense. It is a 1% fee to recover $20 million. Historically, the most successful B2B closers in the country use a technique called the contrast frame. During the final verbal or written negotiation, they never present their price in isolation. They present it alongside the cost of doing nothing. Let us examine a case study from a specialized logistics consultancy in Chicago that was pitching a new route optimization framework to a national trucking firm. The firm was hesitant to move forward because of the initial implementation cost. The consultancy responded by creating a comparative financial model. On one side, they listed the cost of their services. On the other side, they listed the projected fuel and maintenance waste over the next 3 years if the current inefficient routes remained in place. The historical trends for this specific firm indicated that fuel waste alone would cost them $3.5 million by 2029. By showing the $250,000 service fee directly next to the $3.5 million waste figure, the consultancy effectively made the price disappear. The potential outcomes of the conversation shifted from how can we save money on this vendor to how quickly can we stop losing $3.5 million. This is the essence of value-based pricing. You are not selling a service, you are selling a financial correction. To implement this at scale, you must utilize the three-option proposal. Historical trends in behavioral economics suggest that when humans are presented with a single price, their brain asks, "Is this a good price?" When they are presented with three options, their brain asks, "Which of these is the best fit for my needs?" This shifts the psychology from a binary yes or no decision to a comparative selection process. In your final email or proposal document, you should offer a base level, a standard level, and an accelerated level. The accelerated level should be priced significantly higher and include comprehensive, hands-on implementation. Its primary psychological function is to act as a decoy anchor, making the middle standard option, which is your preferred deal, look remarkably affordable by comparison. Consider the scenario of a digital infrastructure firm in Austin, Texas. They were struggling to close deals at their target price of $80,000. Prospects were constantly pushing back, trying to grind them down to $60,000. They began offering a three-tier proposal. Option 1 was a self-service implementation at $50,000. Option 2 was their standard managed service at $90,000. Option 3 was a high-touch, executive-level transformation package at $220,000. Once they introduced the $220,000 option, the $90,000 price point stopped receiving pushback. In fact, their average deal size increased by over $10,000 because they had successfully anchored the high end of the value spectrum. However, even with perfect anchoring and a three-tier proposal, you will occasionally encounter the budget objection. In 2026, many executives are under strict mandates to freeze all new vendor spending. When Robert Sterling tells you, "We love the solution, but we simply don't have the budget allocated for this quarter," most salespeople apologize and ask when they can follow up. An elite B2B marketer treats this as a linguistic puzzle, not a hard rejection. You must look for the non-budgetary budget. This is the capital that is already being spent on the problem itself. You must ask Robert, "I understand the budget for new software is frozen, but which budget is currently covering the $20 million loss we identified in your billing cycle? Is that coming out of the operational contingency fund or the general profit and loss statement?" This question forces the executive to realize that they are already paying for your solution every single month. They are just paying for it in the form of lost revenue and inefficiency rather than a check to a partner who can fix it. By framing the cost of your service as a way to liberate existing wasted capital, you can often bypass the traditional budget approval process entirely. This level of financial fluency is what separates a world-class B2B email marketer from a standard lead generator. You are not just a writer of emails. You are a designer of business cases. You are using the written word to navigate the complex internal politics and financial barriers of the modern enterprise. You have moved from a cold subject line to a warm diagnostic, into a value stack relationship, through an internal consensus battle, and finally into a value-based financial agreement. You have successfully navigated the entire life cycle of a high-ticket B2B deal, using nothing but highly calibrated, strategic communication. But as you reach this summit, a new and much more dangerous challenge emerges. Success in B2B marketing is not just about closing the first deal. It is about the long-term scalability of the model. If you spend all your time manually researching signals and writing bespoke internal consensus decks for one or two clients, you will never be able to build a truly massive viral business. You will be a high-paid consultant trapped in a guild of your own making. To reach the next level, you must learn how to take these hyper-personalized, high-touch psychological frameworks and automate them without losing the human soul that makes them work. How do you use the latest artificial intelligence developments of 2026 to scale extreme relevance to 10,000 prospects a month? How do you maintain the illusion of the one-to-one peer relationship when you are operating at the speed of a machine? There is a very specific, highly technical bridge between manual excellence and automated dominance. If you cross it incorrectly, you become a spammer and destroy your brand. If you cross it correctly, you become an unstoppable market force. We are about to enter the technical architecture of the automated masterclass, where we turn your individual genius into a repeatable, scalable system that works while you sleep. We are moving into the mechanics of the high-leverage scale. To scale the unscalable, you must understand that in 2026, automation is no longer about sending more emails. It is about processing more intelligence at a speed that exceeds human capacity. The historical trends of the early 2020s showed a massive reliance on simple mail merge tags like first name and company name. Today, every enterprise-grade spam filter identifies those tokens instantly and marks them as low-tier marketing noise. To achieve high-leverage scale, you need to implement what we call the hybrid intelligence workflow. This is the precise intersection where machine-driven data scraping meets human-level nuance. Imagine if you are Alex Rivera, the CEO of a rapidly growing logistics technology firm based in Miami. You have identified a specific target market: mid-sized electronics manufacturers who are currently struggling with new cross-border trade regulations enacted in early 2026. You know that if you can reach their directors of operations at the exact moment they are filing their quarterly compliance reports, your relevance will be undeniable. However, manually tracking the filing dates and specific localized challenges for 5,000 separate companies is an operational impossibility for a human sales team. The hybrid intelligence workflow begins with an automated data ingestion layer. Instead of buying a static list of leads, you build an automated pipeline that monitors real-time triggers. You use specialized scrapers to track government regulatory databases, news mentions of localized supply chain disruptions, and even job board changes within your target accounts. In 2026, tools like advanced API connectors allow you to feed this raw data directly into a private large language model. The model is programmed with a very specific, high-context prompt. Identify the top 3 operational frictions this specific company is facing based on this week's regulatory updates, and summarize them into a 2-sentence observation that sounds like it was written by a peer in the logistics industry. This is the step-by-step architecture of a high-leverage scale campaign. Step 1 is signal harvesting. You are looking for the dynamic events we discussed in Part 2, but you are doing it across thousands of accounts simultaneously. Step 2 is context synthesis. The AI takes the raw signal and converts it into the observation anchor we mastered in Part 3. It creates a hyper-personalized opening line that references a specific verifiable fact about the prospect's business that occurred within the last 48 hours. Step 3 is the quality gate. This is where most automated campaigns fail. To maintain the human soul of your outreach, you must implement a human-in-the-loop review process. A specialized researcher, or even a highly trained sales development representative, spends 60 seconds reviewing the AI-generated observation anchor for each high-value prospect. They ensure the tone is correct and the logic is sound. This hybrid approach allows one person to perform the high-level research work of 20 people, maintaining extreme relevance at a massive scale. Now, let us look at the potential outcomes of this methodology compared to traditional automation. Historical trends from a mid-market financial services firm in New York illustrate the power of this shift. They were previously sending 10,000 generic, automated emails a month and receiving a positive reply rate of 0.1%. After switching to a hybrid intelligence workflow, they reduced their volume to just 1,000 emails a month, 10% of their previous volume. However, because each email was anchored to a real-time regulatory signal and a customized financial observation, their positive reply rate jumped to 12%. They were sending fewer emails but generating 12 times more qualified sales opportunities. They were no longer a volume-based spammer. They were a relevance-based market leader. However, the technology of the message is only half of the scaling equation. You must also master the technical infrastructure of 2026 deliverability. You cannot send 5,000 highly personalized emails from a single corporate domain. If you do, the increasingly aggressive security algorithms at major providers like Google and Microsoft will quickly identify the outbound volume and suppress your entire company's communication. To scale, you must build a decentralized domain architecture. This involves securing 20 to 30 lookalike domains that are separate from your primary corporate website. Each of these domains must undergo a rigorous 30-day warming period. During this time, specialized software mimics natural human interaction by sending and receiving low-volume messages, building a positive reputation with the global email service providers. By the time you launch your campaign, you are distributing your 5,000 emails across 100 different inboxes, each sending only 50 messages a day. This distributed sending strategy makes your outreach appear as a series of isolated, one-to-one professional communications rather than a massive marketing broadcast. It allows your hyper-relevant, AI-informed messages to land in the primary inbox every single time, bypassing the Promotions tab and the Spam folder. Furthermore, you must automate your follow-up logic using the value stacking principle from Part 5. In 2026, an automated sequence should not just be a series of reminders. It should be a dynamic branch of logic. If a prospect opens your first email but does not reply, the system should automatically trigger a secondary research task. The AI scans for a different signal, perhaps a recent LinkedIn post or a company press release, and drafts a completely new value-added insight for the second email. If the prospect clicks a link to a diagnostic report you provided but still does not reply, the system triggers a third branch, sending a short video breakdown of that specific report. You are not just following up. You are continuously proving your value through an automated, multi-channel educational journey. This level of automation creates a self-sustaining revenue engine. While you are sleeping, your system is monitoring global signals, synthesizing business cases, and delivering high-value insights to the exact people who need them most. You have successfully taken the psychological frameworks of the elite US salesperson and codified them into a digital infrastructure. You are now operating at a level of efficiency that your competitors cannot even comprehend. They are still arguing over subject line capitalizations, while you are dominating the market through the sheer force of automated relevance. But as you achieve this level of technical and psychological dominance, you will eventually face the most difficult challenge of all. When you are winning at this scale, your competition will notice. They will try to copy your signals, they will try to mimic your tone, and they will try to automate their own version of your value stack diagnostics. In an environment where everyone has access to advanced AI and sophisticated scaling tools, how do you stay one step ahead? How do you ensure that your brand remains the undisputed authority in the inbox of the Fortune 500? There is one final master-level strategy that transcends tactics, technology, and even psychology. It is the strategy of the absolute market authority, and it involves a fundamental shift in how you position your entire company in the digital ecosystem of the future. We are about to enter the final part of this masterclass, where we reveal the ultimate secret to long-term B2B dominance. The game is about to change one last time. The final master-level strategy that transcends tactics, technology, and even psychology is the transition from outbound solicitor to absolute market authority. In the business landscape of 2026, the market is no longer just saturated with noise. It is saturated with highly sophisticated, AI-generated noise. When every competitor has access to automated research and personalized subject lines, the only remaining competitive advantage is the perceived weight of your brand within the ecosystem. You must shift from a model of hunting for leads to a model of presiding over a sector. This is achieved through the implementation of the proprietary intelligence loop. Absolute market authority is established when your outbound emails stop being viewed as sales attempts and start being viewed as necessary industry intelligence reports. Imagine if you are Amanda Reynolds, the Director of Innovation for a major pharmaceutical manufacturer based in New Jersey. In mid-2026, you are navigating a complex regulatory shift involving international clinical trial data. You receive an email from a specialized consulting firm. This email does not offer a discovery call. Instead, it includes a password-protected link to a real-time benchmark report detailing how 42 other mid-sized pharmaceutical firms in the tri-state area are currently adjusting their compliance budgets to meet the new standards. This report is not generic marketing content. It is proprietary data that the consulting firm has aggregated through their own client base and investigative research. By providing Amanda with a dataset that her own internal team has been struggling to compile, the firm has instantly leapfrogged over every other vendor in her inbox. They have provided the ultimate asymmetric value. Historically, when an executive receives a piece of data that directly influences their quarterly strategic planning, they do not just read the email. They forward it to their entire executive committee. You have not just reached a prospect. You have successfully infiltrated the internal boardroom of a Fortune 500 company through the sheer gravity of your intelligence. To build this level of authority, you must commit to the strategy of the industry benchmark. This involves identifying one core metric or operational friction point that is currently opaque in your industry. For a logistics firm, it might be the average localized fuel surcharge across different regional hubs. For a software company, it might be the average churn rate of mid-level developers in a specific tech stack. You use your outbound outreach not to sell your service, but to invite executives to participate in a brief, 2-minute anonymous survey in exchange for the final aggregated report. This creates a self-sustaining feedback loop. Your outbound emails become the mechanism for gathering the data, and the data becomes the high-leverage asset that powers your future outbound emails. Historical trends show that executives are 4 times more likely to engage with a peer-level request for data than they are with the sales pitch. Once the report is compiled, you own the most valuable asset in your sector: the truth about what is actually happening on the ground. When you reach out to a new prospect like James Whitaker, a CEO of a competing firm, you are no longer a stranger. You are the curator of the 2026 Industry Performance Report. You are the person who knows things that his board of directors is asking him about. The potential outcomes of this positioning are profound. You stop competing on price because a market authority is never a commodity. You are the definitive source of truth in your niche. However, scaling this level of authority in 2026 requires a highly technical integration known as the multi-channel echo chamber. Once you have used your email infrastructure to deliver a high-value report or diagnostic to an executive, your work is only half done. You must ensure that for the next 14 days, that executive sees your brand everywhere they look. This is achieved by syncing your outbound email list directly with your professional network advertising accounts. When James Whitaker opens your email and clicks the link to your benchmark report, a tracking pixel triggers a highly specific ad campaign. Now, when James browses his professional social feeds, he sees a sponsored post from your firm that deepens the insight he just read in his inbox. He sees a video case study of another CEO who implemented the findings from your report to reduce their operational overhead. This creates the psychological illusion of omnipresence. In James's mind, your firm is not just a company that emailed him. You are a dominant force in the industry that is being discussed across every platform he uses. Let us examine a case study from a specialized tax advisory firm in Chicago earlier this year. They were targeting high-growth startups that were preparing for initial public offerings. The historical trends for this sector were incredibly competitive, with every major accounting firm in the country vying for their business. The firm created an automated intelligence loop focused on the tax implications of new 2026 labor laws for remote workers. They used their outbound email engine to deliver a one-page tax liability calculator to founders. Simultaneously, they ran a targeted ad campaign specifically to the people who opened those emails. The potential outcomes were a complete capture of the mid-market IPO space in the Midwest. Because they were the only firm providing proactive, data-driven education instead of just asking for a meeting, they were viewed as the only safe choice for a high-stakes transition. They did not just win the business, they won the narrative. They became the authority that the founders relied on before they ever signed a contract. To maintain this dominance, you must also adopt the ethical privacy advantage. In 2026, data privacy regulations have become a primary concern for every enterprise executive. Most automated email tools are viewed with suspicion. To stand out as a market authority, your outreach must be transparently compliant. This means explicitly stating in your footer exactly why they are receiving the email, what public signal triggered the outreach, and providing a one-click, no questions asked data deletion request. By treating their digital privacy with more respect than your competitors do, you further differentiate yourself as a high-level professional peer rather than a low-level marketer. This masterclass has taken you through the entire life cycle of a modern B2B empire. We began with the realization that the traditional sales pitch is dead, replaced by the need for extreme signal-based relevance. We dismantled the subject line and the preview text to bypass the artificial intelligence and human filters that guard the inbox. We built the asymmetric value offer and the implied gap to create an undeniable psychological need for your expertise. We mastered the internal consensus deck to win the battle in the boardroom, and we anchored your pricing to the massive financial leaks you discovered during your research. Finally, we scaled this entire operation using a hybrid intelligence workflow and established your firm as the absolute authority in your market. The era of the salesperson is over. The era of the strategic communicator has arrived. Those who continue to rely on volume, generic templates, and high-pressure tactics will find themselves permanently silenced by the algorithmic gatekeepers of the future. But for those who embrace the methodology of relevance, intelligence, and authority, the inbox remains the single most powerful tool for generating enterprise wealth in the United States. You now possess the complete architectural blueprint for a dominant B2B outreach engine. The only question that remains is how quickly you will implement these frameworks before your competitors do. However, even a perfect email engine is only as good as the back-end system that handles the influx of demand. As you implement these strategies, you will face a new problem: an overwhelming volume of high-level discovery calls that threaten to break your operational capacity. There is a specific way to automate the pre-qualification and onboarding of these elite prospects so that you only spend your time talking to the ones who are ready to sign. The next phase of your growth involves the transition into the autonomous sales organization, where AI agents handle the entire negotiation process up to the point of a legal signature. That is a deep dive for another day, as the digital landscape of 2026 continues to shift beneath our feet. Keep your eyes on the data and your hand on the pulse of the market. The evolution of the sale has only just begun,